What's going on? This is your man Jose, aka the Dominican Dream, for the boxing roundtable alongside my man Rafael Boxing, and we are ready to talk boxing. There's been a lot going on, Rafael. There's been a lot going on. Shout out to the Maniac. The Maniac might hop on, might not. Let's see. There's been a lot going on, man. I know you've been big on it. You've been, you know, excited about it or angry about it or upset about it or I don't know what to say, but you've been following this particular scenario closely. Canelo Alvarez has been all over the news, all over boxing news, all over X, all over Instagram, all over boxing websites, all over everywhere. Daily, by the hour, by the minute almost, news about who he's gonna fight, what's he gonna do, is he gonna fight Terrence Crawford? Is he gonna fight Jake Paul? Is he gonna fight William Skull? What happened? You've been following this case much closer than I have. I don't follow too many of Canelo's steps or what he does. So talk to us, man. What have you seen, and what do you understand, and what do you speculate about what's going on?
So this is very funny because this is very reminiscent of when Canelo first left that PBC deal last year. Was it last year or the year before when he after that first Charlo fight where he left the PBC because they couldn't line up a deal for him for the next fight. He was demanding to fight Charlo, and he ended up leaving, going to the zone, and signing the new deal to fight Munguia and then Berlanga. I'm not quite sure if you remember, but it felt very, very eerily similar to that, where they were just going back and forth. The media didn't know what was going on. The news kept reporting one thing and then another. Benavides' name kept being thrown in there because it seemed like those offers were being thrown in there. But at the end of the day, it just seemed like Canelo ended up getting his way as always because he is the figurehead, he is the face of boxing. But I think it seems like it's a little bit more complicated than what it seems at face value. So what ended up happening uh yesterday was we started to hear I started to hear rumors as of last week that Canelo might be an opponent. I mean, Jake Paul might be an opponent for Canelo Alvarez, which sounds crazy. It sounds it's a circus show. Like you would in a million years you wouldn't think that Jake Paul, which is we consider him a clown, was gonna face the face of boxing. And it wasn't until yesterday or the day before yesterday that we saw those rumors start to grow. And officially, we heard that it was very close to finalizing. Right after it broke out that the Crawford Canelo fight was officially off, or in the meantime, it was paused. Any negotiations after they originally had agreed that the deal was done. They already were looking at stadiums and everything of the above. Well, rumors again started lingering that apparently Turkey was upset that the Jake Paul Canelo fight was going to happen. And then after going back and forth, there was a blame game online, or including ESPN, Fight Hype, the Ring magazine itself, the reporters. They were just circulating so many information that the public was just confused. People didn't know whether it was Turkey's fault, whether it was Canelo's fault, whether it was Jake Paul that managed to just have this home run deal of an event that had landed Canelo the biggest well, Canelo Alvarez. And at the last minute, after it seemed like Jake Paul had wrapped this up, the Crawford fight was officially off. It seemed like Turkey has swooped in and tied up Canelo to not a 3-fight deal as it originally was reported weeks ago, a 4-fight deal, and his first fight starts this May. which it was reported today is going to be William Skull again for two-time undisputed if Canelo can win that matchup.
Uh, uh, you're going in and out. I don't know if you have a Wi-Fi issue or if it's my new connection. No, not as far as your audio, no, but the image is kind of going in and out and coming back out. I don't know if it's that the new setup that I got here with the mic, which I usually use for the pre-recorded videos. Um, but yeah, look, man, I really could care less about what Canelo does in his career. We've been wanting him to fight David Benavidez for the last 3 years. Um, that hasn't happened. So, there's a lot of people that are upset, real true diehard boxing fans like myself are upset. And I really, I could care less about what Canelo's next move is if it's not going to be David Benavidez. He's talking about fighting a guy that just came up to junior middleweight who's really a welterweight. And he's talking about fighting a YouTuber, really a fight that, like you said, I echo your sentiments right in the beginning of the video. Not in a million years. Not in it's almost unfathomable that this could truly happen. But given the way boxing has been trending the last several years, or forget the last several years, after McGregor Mayweather, after that, I actually mentioned it to Sean here on a video, the Maniac, and he mentioned it also, that's a fight that was going to happen, and I still think it is going to happen. Terrence Crawford again, Canelo. Listen, if you are a diehard boxing fan, please reassess your interest in that fight. Why are you interested in that fight? These guys are 3 divisions apart. Terrence Crawford has Israeli Madrimov problems at 154. If he were to fight Bakram, he would have Bakram problems. If he were to fight Fandor, he would have Fandor problems. If he were to fight these if he were to fight Virgil Ortiz, those would be 50-50 fights. If you favor Terrence Crawford, cool. But if you favor him to blast any of those guys out, you tripping, because weight classes matter, and these guys are very good fighters at a higher weight. People are still going crazy off the Spence victory. How come he ain't do that shit that Madrimov? So people are remembering the Spence victory, the Spence beatdown, a dead Spence, but they're not remembering what have you done for me lately. He fought Israeli Madrimov in a 7-5 kind of fight. He got all he could handle with Israeli Madrimov, a guy with 11 professional fights. People are now making fun of. I see a meme. I'm sure you've seen it online. Oh, a guy with 11 fights did this. So they had a picture of Benavidez with his glove touching the canvas, and also a picture of his face post fight. Oh, a guy with 11 fights did this. Okay, right. Well, a guy with 11 fights gave Terrence Crawford an even fight, and if you're an Uzbek and you're watching the fight, you probably saw enough to give Madrimov the fight. I think Terrence Crawford won clearly, 7-5, 7-5, 8-4 max. But it was close.
It was close.
It was close, and at many times during the broadcast, you saw the announce team actually have Madrimov up. So this is not us speculating. This is what many seen. So a guy that's struggling with a 154-pound, 11 fight in fighter is now going to go to 168 to fight one of the strongest punchers in the sport of boxing. I don't care for it. It doesn't make any sense. Do I think Canelo will blast him out and knock him out? No, because Canelo is just not great a finisher as far as breaking you down tactically, round by round. He's a one-punch kind of guy. He sits back, counters. He has come forward lately in his last couple of fights. Mind you, too, let's remember, against big fucking guys like Edgar Berlanga and Jaime Munguia. These guys are big, man. These guys probably came in the ring close to 200 pounds. And you saw what happened to them, how they reacted to Canelo's punch. So imagine a guy who's already a bit chinny at 35, 47, now going to 168. If you guys want to see it, whatever. I don't care for it. What we want to see, what we've been wanting to see is Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez, who is truly a monster. And so is David Morrell. David Morrell is a very, very good fighter. Tremendous power, big guy, strong at 175, solid at 175. And real quick mentioning David Morrell, I talked to the Maniac and I asked the Maniac, who would you like to see David Morrell fight next? And he said, I would like to see him fight the loser of Better BF Bivol, given that David Benavidez is going to fight the winner. And just, out of curiosity, Saturday night boxing talk, how do you see David Morrell doing against Better Biev at this stage in his career and Dmitry Bivol?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question because um, not judging the Benavides fight, judging the Hot Rod fight, seeing that he had a lot of problems with a guy moving around the ring that was strictly boxing him. I think that Bivol, which is an exceptional boxers, an exceptional boxer moving in and out, knows how to use his distance very well. Uh, Even though he has that 1-1-2 or that 1-2 punch combination, he does it exceptionally well, exceptionally well. So I think that he outboxes Bebo outboxes Morel uh, by a wide margin, and that is comparing Hot Rod to Bebo, not Benavides, because the Benavides fight was a different style. I think that if you wanted to compare Better Bia versus Morel, that would be a close match of what it would look like. Does that answer your question, Dream?
I'm sorry. Who would you like in those fights? Better Morrell, Better BF, Morrell, Bivol.
I like I said, Better BF would look much similar to what Benavides Morel looked like, as opposed to Bivol Morel. Like those, the that the we cannot compare Morel uh with Bivol with this last performance that Morel had versus Benavides, because this is a different style matchup. Bivol is an excellent boxer. He's gonna be going in and out, using his footwork, using the 1 and 2s, using his jab a lot, using distance, circling around the ring. It'll look very, very different. It'll look closer to the Hot Rod, or a little bit more aggressive, I would say. So I got Bivol circling around Morel. The better BF matchup might look a little bit more interesting because it'll probably be a phone booth fight again. That
But
that,
who
that
win?
would
But who? Not only how does it look? I understand. You're
I
talking
got
about the different.
Bebo over Morel. I got Morel potentially,
You
upsetting.
could put the mic down because I could hear you. Just that the
Okay.
image for some reason is coming in and out. I don't know if your
Yeah.
Wi-Fi is bad.
Uh Morel can potentially upset Better BF. You don't know.
Look, man. I think those are interesting fights, and styles make fights. I think Morrell carries the weight at 175 much better than Benavidez, and I think unfortunately my favorite fight at 175 is Arthur Beterbiev. But the problem is with Arthur Beterbiev, I've seen him since he was like 3-0, 6-0. I've seen almost all of his fights. I followed his entire career. Unfortunately, he's getting his big break. He's getting the spotlight now at close to 40 or 40 years old after several surgeries and several layoffs. He's not the beast he once was. He's not that unstoppable freight train that he once was. Remember, this was a guy that had won all his fights previous to the BO fight by knockout against good fighters. He even got knocked down by a few, or at least by one, and I believe that was Callum Johnson. Oh, two. And wow, what a fight that was. Those were good fights. That guy was very, very very strong puncher, the guy that knocked him down. Look, given Morrell's athleticism, speed, boxing ability, skill, and now newly acquired experience against David Benavidez, bro, I think he beats Bivol. I think he beats Bivol because I think he beats Bivol because I think he's very, very aggressive. And one thing that Bivol lacks is that aggressiveness. And this guy, again, he hits just as hard or harder than Bivol. He's a real 175 pounder at this point, even though that has only been his second fight at 175 pounds. Let's welcome Johnny. Johnny from At the Hangout Spot. What's going on Saturday Night Live?
What's going on, champ? How you doing, man? Raphael, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Nice to meet you, man.
The boxing roundtable. Listen, Raphael, man, we're touching on a few things, man. Johnny, I'm sorry. Raphael has been hitting me up for the last couple of days because of the Canelo, hoopla, the novela that's been going on.
As the world turns, bro.
Well, there's a reason that I wanted to bring that up and I wanted to make this show is because on the surface it looks like a circus. It looks like a clown show. And I understand for all it has been, Canelo always seems to be involved in these issues. He sued Luis de Cubas when he tried to jump into Golden Boy with De La Hoya. Then he sued De La Hoya to jump into the DAZN contract, that crazy deal that he ended up doing. Then he went with the PBC and ended up parting amicably, only to come back. And now it's the same shit with Turkey. So it seems to be a pattern that is always there, and he gets his way. But there's a reason that I brought up the call, because on the surface it looks like a clown show. But what people fail to understand is, if Johnny, I'm not quite sure if were you following along everything that happened within the last couple of days with this whole Jake Paul thing?
Yeah, absolutely. As the world turns with Canelo, man, and Canelo is a soap opera.
So, what were your thoughts after hearing that Canelo officially signed with Turkey for the 4-5 deal?
I mean, listen, and I said it on my show this week. 4 days ago, they had a done deal, supposedly a 3-fight deal that was going to start in September, and he was going to fight Bud Crawford. Then all of a sudden, the Jake Paul thing reared its ugly head, right? And Jake Paul was a potential opponent in May. I think that Canelo used that as leverage to get what he wanted from Turkey, which was that 4-fight deal. And that's exactly what he got.
That's what I wanted to point it out. That's why I wanted to point out and come to the show, because on the surface that's what it looks like, right? On the surface it looks like Canelo used Jake Paul as a pawn to get more money from Turkey. The way that after
Raphael was cutting in and out. Yeah.
Let me
try to restart your or go to another.
Give me a second. Let me see if I can connect with my phone really quick.
Yeah, no problem. Do that.
Sounds like it might be a Wi-Fi issue or something like that.
And just give me 2 seconds, because I want to key in on a.
Let's see if I can.
Yeah, maybe use your phone and try to keep it, not take it off Wi-Fi. Just use the
You guys hear me there, right?
I hear you, but if you're on Wi-Fi, try to get off your Wi-Fi.
Yeah, no, I disconnected already.
All right.
So I wanted to go over this key point. So Canelo uses Jake Paul as a pawn to actually leverage Turkey for more money, or that 4-5 deal, right? That's what it looks like. That's what everybody's saying, because that's what it truly looks like. It looks like Turkey is looking like a sucker because he's actually the one putting the money down. My thoughts, and this was confirmed to me by two things. Number one, I saw a video by AM Sports Media. They they have some ties to PVC, and they were mentioning that Al Heyman was actually working on something behind the scenes, which was going to ruffle a lot of feathers, and it was going to get a lot of pushback. But the sport was going to kind of learn how to accept it afterwards. Number two, Jake Paul in his latest video ended up mentioning and saying, Al Heyman, who has made you hundreds of millions of dollars, you turn your back on him to go with the next guy. So here's what I think happened. Because if I'm getting leveraged out, I'm not going to be happy about overpaying or dishing out more money. What I think happened was that Al Heyman and Jake Paul, of course, because he has to be brought into the equation, was orchestrating this deal because it was his last deal, his last fight left on Canelo's term before jumping into Saudi for September. Creating this mega matchup with Jake Paul with Netflix, which was going to inject more revenue, more stream into the PVC, which has been rumored to be suffering from any financial woes. Now, you think about how much money that fight would have generated. As much of a clown show, as much of a circus you want to call it, this thing probably would have broken a lot of records. It would have introduced a new fandom, a new audience into the whole Canelo thing, which Canelo himself or Jake Paul himself mentioned that he said that his daughter actually asked him if it was true that he was fighting Jake Paul, and his daughter never asks him about any fights or anything like that. So this was going to introduce a new audience. Now, the repercussions of that, which Turkey probably didn't like, and I don't blame him, is the fact that that was going to downplay the Crawford and Canelo fight. Because that's no longer the fight of the year. Like, no one is looking up to you coming from a circus clown show into the hardcore fight. And my explanation to that is, imagine when Ryan Garcia and Tank fought. This was the biggest event of the year. And after it finished, a lot of hardcore switched and said, well, thank God that it's over. Now we're going to the real fight, which is going to be Crawford Spence. That's going to be the real Super Bowl for us. Well, guess what? It still didn't match the attention and the hoopla and it didn't create as much as much buzz as the Tank Ryan fight. For the hardcores like us, of course, like we loved it. But at the end of the day, it's
Look,
about money.
Look,
It's about money.
I mean, like, again, this is not a subject I really care much about, like the in and outs of the business and what Canelo's doing. Again, I'm sure Johnny agrees with me. Johnny, we've been 1-1 fight for Canelo Alvarez the last 3 years. Absolutely. David Benavidez.
And it's not gonna happen.
Anything else, everything that he's been doing, man, he's been really digging his own grave as far as looking like a duck, because again, he chose to fight Edgar Berlanga, no experience. He chose to fight more of a guy that's really known for his first 15, 16 one-punch, one-round knockouts coming up and knowing Fat Joe, right? And being a little loudmouth and getting on social media. A lot of people knew him. He got the hip-hop crowd behind him. Okay. Then Jaime Munguia. And, Charlo, after the other fight fell through. Who else did he fight in this last 3 or 4 fights, Johnny? There's somebody else in there that I'm probably missing.
No, that was it. It was Little Charlo, it was Munguia, and then Berlanga. That was the 3 fights.
And all fights, right? So we're talking,
the original 3. Remember, the original 3-plan deal, which was this close afterwards, after the whole debacle happened back in 2023, was that Canelo was supposed to fight Big Charlo from 160, then Little Charlo at 154, undisputed for undisputed, and then Errol Spence. That's why they were blocking that fight. So you have to look at what Crawford beating Errol Spence did to the whole thing.
But also there was rumors that Benavidez was going to be one of them. The point I'm trying to make is that he's taken 3 fights to one, a guy with that's inexperienced in Edgar Berlanga. Munguia, fight that no one really was clamoring to see. And Charlo, 154-pounder who had to come up 2 weight classes. And
But
now the speculation is a welterweight that only had 1 fight at 154 pounds
yeah, but that's
and struggled in that fight against Israeli Madrimov, Terence Crawford. And the other option B now, or option A, Johnny, Jake Paul. What are your thoughts on that, man?
I mean, what can you say, man? I mean, this is the way Canelo moves. I mean, he's in full diva mode. He's going to move the way he wants to move. And I believe that his diehard fans, they enable that. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you brought up a good point. We don't care. Okay. We don't care. We want to see the fight that boxing fans want to see. And that's him against David Benavidez.
I'm,
Everything else is secondary.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break it to you guys, but we'll never see that fight.
You're
And I
right.
know,
You're probably right.
and I know that you guys keep saying like that's as hardcore. That's what we want. But after the Berlanga fight, that's when I realized I was like that fight is never gonna happen. When I saw the Andrade fight right after that fight, I said in my mind, and I don't know if you remember, Dream, I told you no way that fight happens now. There's just no way that happens. I saw pretty much what ended up happening afterwards, how Canelo kind of destroyed the whole PBC deal and said, like, no, he kicked the chair on the table during, the how that got leaked. And the fans' response to that was, it doesn't matter. Canelo can do what he wants. He's done enough. He's king. Blah blah blah.
But
So,
I don't know if it was after that. Honestly speaking, I think what may have put the last nail in the coffin, Johnny, was the performance of David Benavidez the other Saturday against David Morrell. Both of them, they both put on great performance. I think that right there. After that, anyone that saw that fight understands.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing. If this fight doesn't happen, and Rafael, honestly, I believe it doesn't happen either because of Canelo. Canelo doesn't want that smoke.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I had Jose Senior on my show this week, and I asked him directly on the show, if that fight were to present itself, would you still take it, and would you be willing to move down to 168 to take it? Because Canelo's not going to take it at 175. And he said without hesitation, they will take that fight. So they want it. They still want it. They're not chasing it. They're not chasing it.
Jose said that.
Jose Benavidez Sr. was on my show this week and said specifically they will take that. They will move down to 168. And even I said, well, Coach, do you think that's a good idea? I mean, it looks like David is comfortable at 175. He said it's not a problem. We will move down for that fight. We will move up to cruiserweight to fight Zerdo. Again, I'm just telling you what was said. Make sure you check out that interview on the Hangout.
And just so everybody knows, hold on, Ralph.
So it's not David. This is a Canelo issue. Canelo does not want that smoke.
No, we go ahead. I'll speak.
Just so everybody knows, go check out that interview, man, at the Hangout Spot. The Hangout Spot, DA Hangout Spot. Check that out. And just to clarify, Johnny, this interview was post Morrell Benavidez.
This interview was 2 days ago. Yes, this was after I interviewed him. I interviewed him Thursday. With Saturday.
Because I saw an interview on Fight Hub TV with Marcos Villegas, where David said, the 168, that's done. That's history. I'm done with that. I'm not going back down. I wanted to fight Canelo, and the fight didn't happen. He explained the process of why the fight didn't happen, and now he's at 175, and now he wants to fight the winner of Better Be a Bivol, and he wants to create his own legacy. So that's very, very interesting. But I think, as most people speculated, Johnny, that's something that we knew they would be willing to do because of the magnitude of the fight, the meaning of the fight, and the fact that they've been chasing this guy for years. And It's the biggest, highest profile fight that Benavidez can have. Me personally, I like Benavidez' answer better. Sorry, David Benavidez' answer, saying, yo, that's history. I'm at 175 now. I was at 168. Now I'm at 175. You know why, Johnny? Because you know boxing. You're a diehard. You're an analyst. You understand that is detrimental to the health into the performance of David Benavidez going back down. You see already how big he is.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea. And then we'll fuck around and have a Spence Crawford kind of thing where one fighter is completely done. He's a shell of himself. He there's no strength in him. He's drained and he goes down with a jab. Spence, who's never been down in his career, goes down like 4 or 5 times against Terrence Crawford. That's what we're gonna see, and that's not what we want to see.
You just have to point out Chad Dawson versus Andre Ward when he came down.
Yeah, it was stupid. I was stupid.
And he came down drained. But what I'm trying to say is that that fight is not going to happen. I've already started I got it out of my mind. I stopped talking about it. I just joke about it. But let me just say this final thing. The only way that fight truly happens, that's kind of like the home run deal, is if Beterbiev, like there's a lot of moving pieces that need to happen in order for this fight to happen, is if Beterbiev wins on the 22nd, like that, there's no trilogy involved. And B, if Benavidez beats Beterbiev. If that happens, which to me, I would still favor Beterbiev in that fight as of right now, then the pressure that will get on Canelo from including his fans, the people in Mexico, the mainstream media, and everything, and Turkey himself, because at this point, and I know you're nodding, you're shaking your head, Dream, but you have to listen to what the fighters' names are on that deal. The first fight that Turkey has on the deal is
but these are speculations, man.
No,
we don't know that.
Those are the names.
How many times has the news changed within the last couple of days, Johnny?
Those are the names right there. Those are the names that have been thrown out. William Skoll, which is now official. Crawford, which is for September, which is official. Potentially the Bebo fight, which he says that he wants, and then is to be determined, which is the fourth fight, which we don't know. And the people are hoping that the fourth fight is Benavidez, which I don't think so. What I'm saying is the only way that you cut through that is by winning undisputed. That's the only way. Otherwise, that fight is not going to happen.
I'm sorry. I don't think it happens no matter what. If Benavidez gets undisputed at 175, I don't think Canelo's going to fight Benavidez at 175, bro. He's not going to fight
him. He wants no part of him.
He doesn't want a part of him at 68. So imagine at 175. Exactly. Nerd NERD says, as a hardcore, I want to see Benavidez versus the winner of Beterbiev Bivol. Yeah, basically he's saying that's what the hardcores want. And me too. Honestly, yeah, I would love to see Canelo get his ass whooped by Benavidez, but I'm not hoping and wishing for that fight. Let me read Nerd's other comment. It says Canelo leaving the Mexican dates for 2026. He's leaving the dates for 2026. Let's see if Benavidez steps up and take those dates. Well, when you mean steps up, what do you mean? Because Benavidez is the one that has been calling him out and waiting on Canelo. So, but real quick, we mentioned David Morrell. You interviewed Jose Benavidez Sr., Johnny, and this is Saturday Night Boxing Talk, man. I want to explore your thoughts right now on this subject. What would you like to see next for David Morrell? And I asked the Maniac that question, and he said, I would like to see him versus the loser, since Benavidez is getting the winner of Beterbiev Bivol. How do you see him faring, or who do you like in those fights? Morrell versus either Beterbiev or Bivol?
I mean, Morrell put up a good show on Saturday. I mean, I had Benavidez stopping him, but I mean, he put up a good show. He took a lot of punishment, but he fought. He ended the fight on his own 2 feet. I would personally, I think that I would look at guys like maybe Willie Hutchinson, Callum Smith, maybe Anthony Yardy. I'd look to get Morrell maybe one of those type of fights before I put him against the loser. I don't know how he would fare against Bivol. let's say if Bivol were to lose, Better Beeve, I wouldn't favor him over Better Beeve either. I think that he would succumb to the pressure, but Morrell is definitely, he definitely proved that he can hang in the 175 division. But I think those type of fights is what I would look for him to do next, and then eventually, yeah, I mean, I think that he would fare well against the big boys, but I wouldn't necessarily put him against Bivol or Better Beef if either one of them lose in the next fight. I think Willie Hutchinson or Callum Smith or even Anthony Sims Jr. I had him on my show last week. Light heavyweight. He's looking to get into the mix. I think that would be a really, really good fight against Morrell. So there's a lot of options, but yeah, he put up a good performance against Benavidez. Put it that way. Like I said, I thought that maybe, especially in the middle part of that fight, I thought that Benavidez would break him down and eventually stop him in the later rounds. But he ended the fight on his 2 feet. So shout out to him, and Benavidez Senior, man, gave him a lot of props as well. They respect the performance, what he brought to the table, and they think he's going to be a major player at 175, man. But yeah, I think he could be a player for 75. I wouldn't put him against Bivol or Benavidez deck. So,
well, you know what, you say that, but again, Turkey, what he saw
could be
right, Turkey, and when you get those big phone calls, Johnny, if you get a phone call from Anthony Yar's people and a phone call from Better BS people, which one you gonna answer?
No, you're right. You're right.
So
I'm just saying what I would do if I was.
I think that's brilliant. I think you're right as far as getting him even more accustomed and more experienced before he goes on to fight those legit 175 pounders. But again, he is hotter than all those guys now. He is hotter than the Yards and the Hutchinsons and the Smiths because of the performance that he put up on that big stage with Benavidez. And because of that, he might skip the line, if you will, a little bit, right? Because all those guys, they already had their chance against these guys, right? Against the Better Bievs or Bivol, and he came up short. And this guy's exciting. He has power. He has speed. He's explosive.
Well, when you say skip the line to who? I'm not.
I'm basically saying that Johnny makes a good point as far as he might need at least a fight or two before he fights one of those guys. And I'm saying maybe he'll skip that process, right? And go on to fight Better Bivol because he's shown that, in my opinion. I think quite possibly could be ready. And hold on real quick, Raphael. Let me make, and then you go ahead. And bro, given what I've seen and him being a true 175 pounder as opposed to Benavidez, what I mean by that is him feeling in better at the weight, right? Looking at him physically. Yo, Johnny, I really have to sit down and think about him versus Bivol and him versus Better Biev. One, Better Biev's 40 years old, had a couple surgeries, and had multiple layoffs. He's not the same Better Biev. And he's my favorite fighter at 175. He's not the same Better Biev. I was rooting for Better Biev to beat Bivol. And you know what? He got the W, but I thought Bivol won. Because I keep it real. He's not that killer that he once was. I got Morrell beating him now. And Bivol is an excellent fighter, very skilled, moves, punches, intelligent, but he's not aggressive enough. And this guy is just as big, if not bigger than him. And he punches really hard and he's fast and he's showing that he can move forward and backwards. I don't know, man. I would go out on a limb and I would favor Morrell versus both of them, man. And that's going out on a limb. But I would. He might even do better. Styles make fights. We saw Benavidez hunt down and beat up David Morrell in a great fight. Styles make fights. So I could see Bivol beating Benavidez. And I could see Morrell doing better against Benavidez. I could see Bivol beating Benavidez and I could see Morrell beating Bivol because Styles make fights. Yeah. Again, Better Biev to me is a question mark because Better Biev, we have a question mark on him, Johnny. What the next fight is going to show us what he really has left. we're not making this stuff up, guys. He's 40 years old, had meniscus surgery, then he had another injury, he had a jaw infection at one point. Bro, Father Time, bro, doesn't forgive anybody.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, man. And you're right. Like I said, it could go either way. This fight is going to tell us a lot. February 22nd, like you said, is going to tell us a lot about what Better Beef has in the tank. A lot of people are favoring him to win the rematch. I'm going to favor him to win the rematch as well. I just think that what he showed in the second half of that fight, Bivol was cooking in the first half of that fight, and then it looked like he wore down. And I don't know if Bivol could necessarily fight a better fight than he did the first time, because he fought a hell of a fight the first time, and it looked like he faded. He succumbed to the pressure, the physical pressure, the mental pressure. This guy just keeps coming forward. I think that, in my opinion, you're going to see a continuation of the ending part of that fight going into this second fight. And this is why I'm picking Better Beef to win this fight. And I'm picking him probably to stop Bivol in this fight.
I mean, that's a bold way. Yeah. That's a bold prediction. I would like that to happen, guys. I would really like that to happen. I've been watching Better Beef. That's one of the few fighters that I can say that I've seen almost all of his fights, because he came up, he started late as a professional, and we've seen him on the PBC cards and other cards coming up, 5-0, 6-0, 7, 8, 9, 10, knocking everybody out. I would like to see that, but unfortunately, he's one of those guys, man, just like Sergio Martinez, that got the spotlight too late in his career. So,
but he doesn't really have the mileage, that you would think that a 40-year-old fighter does. You know what I mean? Like, how many pro fights has he really had?
I think so.
But remember, he's one of those guys that had 500, 500 amateur fights.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he is 40.
There's a recency bias when it comes to this, and I, just like I do with every fighter that has had a bad performance or a shaky performance, I always have to say, I have to give him the benefit of the doubt and see how he looks on the next fight.
But this wasn't one. This wasn't one. He's been looking that way. He's been looking like he's on the decline, even in his victories against Yard, against the other dude, the dude of, I think he's Canadian, or they fought in Canada. Marcus
Brown.
No, Marcus Brown is American, and he destroyed Marcus Brown. Like, no, that makes that makes no sense. Let me just get to my point. I have to.
No, he hasn't been looking. He's been looking like he's on a decline.
I highly disagree with you. People had this a close 50-50 matchup upon the first match with Bivol, but they had him ahead by slightly. I have him ahead still because just with everything that everything you just mentioned regarding having the meniscus tear, B just coming off of that long layoff, we could make an argument that he probably wasn't looking as sharp because he had that long of a layoff and he was coming off the knee injury. So I have to give him the benefit of the doubt because you don't have that timing that you have whenever you're active, whenever you have that activity going into fight. Bivol had like 1 or 2 fights in between. So we don't know how he's going to look. Maybe Better Beef comes in sharper now that he's fighting earlier on. So I have to give him the benefit of the doubt on this fight.
I believe it was the Marcus Brown fight when I started to see the decline. In fact, Andre Ward was commentating on that fight, and he said, if I'm Canelo, I try to fight him now because I see vulnerabilities. And then he went on to fight Joe Smith Jr., and then he went on to fight Yard, and then he went on, and that fight, he had some trouble. He looked like he was getting hit a lot. He was being bloodied a lot. And then also when he beat the Callum Smith up, I didn't like how he looked up until the knockout. I don't know, man. He's been showing decline to me, and then eventually that's why going into the Better Be a Bivol fight, I was really on the fence about that. And again, in my opinion, I was rooting for him, but in my opinion, I think he lost that.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I would say that Callum Smith was knocking a few fighters out prior to that, so there was a lot of people that had him edging him out in that fight, and he still pretty much just went through him at the end of the day. So I have to see him pretty much lose for me to change my mind on that. To me, the Marcus Brown fight was what made me a believer in Better BF. Regardless of what you say, that was the
I've
fight that
seen.
I was like, I was like, honestly, this guy is a monster. Because you're fighting an Olympian fighter, like you're just not gonna go through fighters. This like
Yeah, but
Marcus
I've seen it.
Brown.
I seen him when he was in his prime coming up, man. And what he did to Callum Johnson, he got knocked down in that fight. Callum Johnson is a big puncher. To me, Callum Johnson is better than Callum Smith. And that was a great fight. And I was surprised when he got knocked down and when he came back up. Look, that's what I've seen. I've seen a decline systematically because I've seen all of his fights, just about all of his fights, and I've seen his performances at the peak of his prime when he was up on a rise, and now, and he's shown wear and tear, and it's not the wear and tear of professional fights, but just the wear and tear of fighting, of being an athlete, and of being 40 years old. I think I would like him to win, but I'm really gonna go with Bivol. And I don't know if you guys seen the Bivol interviews lately, but he's saying he might be a bit more aggressive in this fight, and that he has enough power to knock anybody out at 175, which he does.
But
And
here's the deal: like he fought a really great fight and came up short, right? Because he faded towards the end to the pressure. So can he fight better this time around?
well,
The
do you really
second
think
fight?
that he came up short? Because like yourself, like myself, you said
On paper he did. I
like
thought he won the fight by a point, right?
and many, not only you, many of
But
us did.
By a
but the
point.
fact that he's faded late in the fight was the reason why we're all questioning: did he lose? Did he win? Right? Because if they would have stopped that fight in the 6th round, it's unanimous. He wins that fight. But the fact that he faded, now we have question marks. So I don't know if he can repeat, or he'll have to even do better than that in this second fight to win this fight. Hurting Beterbiev, like as much as he was cooking, he was boxing, he was moving. He really never hurt Beterbiev either. So I mean, so that I don't think that he'll be able to hurt Beterbiev. He'd have to do what he did the first 6 rounds for the whole 12 rounds, and I don't know if he can do that this time around. That's just my opinion. Like I'm rooting for Bivol, but I mean, I don't know
I,
if he can top that performance.
we look at it. We look at it totally different. In this basically the same, because you're saying you don't know if he has enough to duplicate that performance.
Correct.
But remember, this is what I think. I don't think Beterbiev has enough to duplicate his performance, which wasn't a great performance, because he is the one he's the older one. He's the one that's been looking like he's on a decline. Bivol is still in his prime, technically. So Bivol can have a longer career after this than Beterbiev can. He can easily duplicate performances more than Beterbiev can. And I'm opposite, because you want Bivol to win. I want Beterbiev to win, but I'm saying Bivol is going to win. And you're saying Bivol is going to Beterbiev is going to win. You want people. So, that's how boxing works, man. You see different things. Everyone has a different perception. And I'm gonna go with Bivol in that fight, man. And I think he might even look for the stoppage. Will he get it? I don't know, but I think Beterbiev's had it, guys.
It's fair.
I got better BF, and I wouldn't be surprised if he stops him either. I gotta stick to that. A, giving him the benefit of the doubt on that matchup, and B, I need to see him pretty much how he looks, is if he's more in rhythm this time around, since it's closer to the last fight. And C, you don't know if he was still feeling hurt from the knee injury. You don't know. Maybe he's a little bit fresher this time. So I say that he probably will have a better performance, and see what happens. He does, he was knocking everyone out, at the end of the day. So we forget about that. But like you said, that's why we watched the fight, and we're gonna have to wait until the 22nd.
Real quick, man, we got a fight coming up next weekend. A big name, a name that's on the rise, a name that's coming up. I don't think he's a terrific fighter. Maybe he could be one day, but I don't think he is as of yet. Keyshawn Davis versus Dennis Baranchek. Johnny, look, I'm gonna go ahead and break it down first. I think that Barincek is a more all around a better and complete fighter than Keyshawn Davis. But I think that Keyshawn Davis is kind of like Broner was at 130 and 126. He's just a little too big, too strong for. I think that's what's going to be the factor. I think he's too big, too strong for Barincek. I don't think he's better. I don't think he has more resources, more tools. But I think he'll be able to beat or even knock out Barincek. If not, when in the close fight where he might be favored, where it might look like, I don't know. But of course, the younger, undefeated, more potentially money-making fighter will get the decision, right? Or I can see him overpowering Barincek. And a lot of people are gonna take to this fight and see, he is good, he is nice. Again, styles make fights. I think that at that weight, Keyshawn is a big boy. I think he's big and he's strong. And Barincek struggled. He beat Navarrete, but Navarrete was coming up, and he struggled with him. Navarrete gave him a lot of work, albeit Navarrete is nasty. He's a monster, but his power didn't carry to 135, right? And you got a guy that's coming down who's probably dry, complete muscle at 135, and Keyshawn Davis. So I think Keyshawn will win that fight, and I think they'll continue to hype him up. And I heard you guys the other day on your live. Oh, I respect the fact that he calls out this person and that person. There's a term called clout chasing. I think him calling out Tank, him calling out T.O., him calling out guys like that are top at in their division, experienced fighters, he wouldn't beat T.O. He wouldn't beat Tank. As a matter of fact, those are mismatches right now. I think that, like Sean said, he's doing a great job at promoting himself. I don't think he really means that. He's not going to step, neither would they let him step into the ring with Teofimo Lopez next. Tank, maybe because of how lucrative that fight is, but a fight with Teo ain't that lucrative. They're not going to put him in there with if Shakur Stevenson wasn't a stablemate of his, I wouldn't favor him to beat Shakur. I think Shakur boxes his ears off. I don't think he's not in the conversation with those guys. What he's doing is he's clout chasing, man. He's going, calling this person out. The hip hop community knows him. He knocks somebody out. He knocks out some bum. He knocks out some guy that comes in 6 pounds overweight that probably didn't even train for the fight. And now he's the next big thing. And this guy might be able to knock out Gervonta Davis. No, it's a farce. With time, can it happen? Can it be on that level? Maybe, but not with 12 fights. Honestly, I would definitely put my money on Frank Martin to beat him. Too much experience, man. Frank put up a terrific performance against Tank. Frank is a good fighter. I think Pitbull will knock his head off. How come we ain't talking about that? Pitbull versus Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn is a baby. He's a baby. Keyshawn might have problems with the dude that Pitbull fought, Fierro. Keyshawn ain't beating Rayo. I know Rayo's at 140 now, but I don't know if he can make 135 again. He's not there. They're doing a great job of promoting. That's what Top Rank does. They do a great job of hyping fighters up. That's my opinion on that fight, man. And on Keyshawn Davis.
Okay, well, I mean, you said a lot there. Go ahead, Raphael.
I disagree. Again, I think Keyshawn is probably one of those underrated ones at 135 that's showing a lot, which each fight is showing a lot more tools than what they seem to be looking like. The Pedraza fight, I didn't give it much merit to it because
come on, man.
He was already shot.
Yeah, you can't.
But the fight against the Argentinian dude, what's his name?
Lemos.
With Lemos, he practically, rocketed it out of him, regardless whether he was bloated or not. The fight prior to that showed a lot of too. He was fighting a guy that was very aggressive. He was very defensively responsible, throws combinations and punches without being fearful of staying in the pocket. Has very good foot movement and has a lot of power in his arsenal. Obviously, what you're saying is absolutely right, Dream. Top Rank does promote fighters very well, but he is taking it another notch, which he seems like he has that which is charisma. He's a funny guy, clowns a lot, is able to get in kind of like the culture in. So I think it could be a star in the making. I see him as he has the tools because he has the power, punches in combination, and he has the speed. So we just got to see him fight.
I don't think I don't think he has that much speed. I think he throws. I think he's very mechanical in there as far as the way he throws punches. He's not fluid like, let's say, Abdullah Mason, right? He's very he's very naturally talented. This guy's a little mechanical and he throws wide punches. Looking at him, breaking him down. You know, his volume isn't all that great. Again, he's fighting nobodies, bro. The only guy that he fought that was Maso Mano was Lemos, and to me, Lemos was just there to get paid. There's only two things that happen when you come in. When you come into a pound and a half, 2 pounds, even 3, you're having some weight issues. When you come 6, 7 pounds overweight, that means either you're not training or you're just there to get paid. So I think that fight was a false. I know other people, for example, asked my man from Four Corners. He also believes the fight was a false. I think Lemos took a dive. I didn't right when I saw it, even when I saw the weigh in, I'm like 6 pounds. I'm like, so is the fight still gonna happen? Like, bro, most fighters, when you're fighting a guy that's 6 pounds over, most teams wouldn't even accept that fight. So why would they accept that fight so easily? Well, and then knock the dude out in what round or 2?
I'll tell you one thing. This fight is going to
that doesn't raise any red flags for you guys. That the fact that he,
I mean, mentally probably didn't really come in like with his head in the fight, but it is what it is. He already signed the contract. He's there to fight. It is what it is. I have to take it for what it is.
You guys don't believe guys still take dives?
It could happen, but aside from that,
I don't think Lemos took a dive at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I think.
Let me just finish up by saying that this fight is gonna actually prove what he actually is, because Dennis Varenchek, regardless,
I don't think so. I don't think so, because again, I think he's big for the weight class, man.
Let me explain.
He's big for the weight class.
Dennis Varenchek and a lot of these Eastern European fighters show that they have a lot of craft into their boxing skills. Darren Varenchek is an Olympian fighter, and we're going to be able to see whether, Keyshawn is going to, fold, if he's going to show some immaturity in there, depending on his performance. So, like I said earlier, like I've said on other fights that we've mentioned already, we're going to watch the fight, and then we're going to have to, have the conversation afterwards, and that's why we watch the fight. So we'll see how it plays out.
I think the size difference. I think this guy's just a much powerful guy, man. I think that's what's gonna win him the fight. If he was in there against Pitbull again, I would favor Pitbull to knock his head off.
See, this is
absolutely.
This is what I don't like that boxing fans do, and I'm not saying this, specifically to you, Dream, but before the Lemos fight, a lot of people were saying that was going to be his biggest test, right? His toughest test, because of what Lemos did against Richardson Hitchens. Right. And then he comes in, he washes Lemos, and now, we're kind of discrediting that. Right.
Yeah. But I said it on the show going into the fight.
Okay. Well, most boxing fans did it because I was all over the place boxing. I mean, and most people were saying this was going to be his toughest test. Lemos is a tough guy. He's Argentine. He can punch. Most people thought he gave, Hitchens the business, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes in there and he does what he does. Right. You got to give him credit for that, especially in front of his home crowd. A lot of people were saying, well, I don't like this matchup in front of his home crowd. You know the deal. When you're fighting in front of your people, you have the tendency to want to overperform. You disappoint. He did it. He passed that test with flying colors. So we got to give him credit for that. So I will give him credit for that fight. Now, as far as Varenchek, this is going to tell us who Keyshawn Davis is, right? Because whether we believe that he's clout chasing or not, I mean, he's calling out these guys.
But based on what though on Baranchik's performance against the guy that came up from 126 and 122 and now
No.
He's an undefeated world champion.
Baranchik is an undefeated 19-0 fighter.
Undefeated world
yeah,
champion.
but who else has he fought at 100 and beat at 135 pounds?
He's still an Olympian.
I'm asking who else has Baranchik fought at 135 pounds?
I mean, he beat Navarrete.
Again,
nobody. Yeah, but
Navarrete is not 135 pounder.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. But nobody was picking him to beat Navarrete going into that fight. Nobody. The media wasn't picking him. The fans weren't picking him. They were going with the most popular name, the guy that was, and he did what he needed to do. I mean, we can't discredit Baranchik as an opponent.
I'm saying how much merit are you giving him? You got to give someone merit on their body of work, right? And if Keyshawn beats him, okay, we got to look at, well, he beat who? Who did he beat? What quality of an opponent is he really? Because again, he's best known for beating a guy that came up from 122 and 126, and in a fight it wasn't like he dominated him. Right, it wasn't like he blew him out the water. He won clearly, but Navarrete was in the fight, right? And Navarrete his power doesn't carry to 135. That's why he went back to 130, beat shit out of Oscar Valdez. 130 is good for him. 135, too much. Let's look at what else has Baranchik done and how he's looked against other top fighters.
So the other Navarrete opponents, how did they look against Navarrete? Did they look that good? Did they look as good as Baranchik did?
At 135? Did he fight did he fight Luke Wilson or what's his name? Liam Wilson, the Australian dude? Did he fight him at 135?
I'm not sure.
Because he was the one that almost had Navarrete out of there. So that's another fighter that looked pretty good against Navarrete at a higher weight. He even dropped him and had him seriously hurt.
Yeah, but I agree with Rafael, man. I think Keyshawn is the real deal, man.
I don't.
I do. He's still green. He's got a ton of potential.
Very green.
Charismatic. He can sell a fight. He's got heart. I mean, I don't think calling those guys out was clout chasing at all.
He doesn't want to fight them. He don't want to fight.
Realistically thinks he's going to get those fights at this point in his career, but I think that it was genuine. He trains with Shakur. I think the pedigree is there, man. I think he has star written all over him. He just has to win this title. Once he wins this title, I think that his market value will go up, and he's going to be a major player at 135. I mean, realistically, who else at 135 do you really see that can beat him other than Tank? Right? A lot of people are going to favor Tank, obviously, at 135, but who else would you favor at 135 to beat him? If he washes Baranchik, let's say, who would you favor at 135 to beat him now?
Let me look at the box rec because let me see who's still at 135.
So here,
if remember all these guys have moved up. If Tio was at 135, I favor Tio. If Pitbull was at 135, I favor Pitbull.
But they're not anymore.
If Rayo was at 135, I favor Rayo. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me mention one guy that'll beat the brakes off his ass, and I would put money on that.
Who?
Edwin De Los Santos will smoke him.
I don't see that.
Edwin De Los Santos will smoke him.
We have to watch that fight.
Yeah, I don't see that at all.
I got two words for now because he has a little bit of potential. I think he's better than Sanders Sayas. He has more potential than Sanders Sayas. But I got one word for him right now. Hype job.
Nah. I'm not quite
absolutely,
sure
man. I come from the early 90s, man. 80s, 90s, early 2000s. You got to show me more than that. I'm seeing how wide his punches are. I'm looking at him. He's squared, man. He has potential because he's a strong kid, and he's showing that he's increasing his boxing ability slowly. But again, leave those names out your mouth because you're not fighting them. You're not ready for the Tanks. You're not ready for the Tios. You're not ready for the Shakurs. He hasn't called out Shakur because he's on he's on the same stable in the same stable. Otherwise, he would have.
They won't fight each other. Yeah,
They won't fight each other.
They're like brothers. They won't fight each other.
Well, for now, because once one goes to somebody else, then the beef gonna start, right? And then that's how it goes. But let's see. I'm not too thrilled about the Baranchik fight. I think I'm gonna have to see more than that. But I gotta look at 135. But who's still at 135, Johnny?
Lomachenko. You have Shakur.
Lomo's basically one foot out the gate.
He still has the belt, so I have to count him in.
Cepeda.
So you have Schofield, you have Cepeda. So you have those fights in there. The Cepeda fight, I don't know. He did look very suspect versus what's his name?
The last fight, Zepeda's last fight.
Yeah.
Damn, who the hell was that against again?
The lefty, cross-eyed guy. I'm sorry.
Tevin Farmer.
Farmer. I'm like, it's right there.
The cross-eyed guy.
And I call that fight. And I call that fight when that fight was announced. When that fight was announced, people kept saying, "Oh, why are they making this fight? Cepeda's gonna crush him." And I said, no. If you're a promotional company, you put in a lefty that has a very slick style to prepare for Shakur, and then you gauge to see how ready he is, because you're not gonna throw him against Shakur right away. That fight happened. That is exactly what I was expecting happen. It was gonna be a close matchup because this guy's a veteran. Is very slick, hard to hit. He surprised me with power, but it was everything that I was expecting, and they got the win. They're gonna make the rematch now, so we're gonna see how that plays out. But at the end of the day, you can't discount any of these fighters, because at the end of the day, that's why we watch the fight.
You got the guy that he has beef with, who he doesn't want. It looks like he doesn't want a part of him. I think it'll be a fun fight, but I think Andy Cruz does beat. Again, because he beat him 4 times in the amateurs, right?
I don't think so. I think
he beats Keyshawn. I think he outboxes him. And you have the guys that we have at 135. I'm looking at the box, right? We got Murataya. We got Schofield, who's fighting Shakur. He's tied up. For some reason, Frank Martin is still listed as a 135 pounder, but I don't believe he's coming back to 135.
140.
So I'll give you my argument.
You have Abdullah Mason, who's green, but has a lot of people are liking what he's doing. Although I can't really comment too much on him. I haven't seen too much of Abdullah. So I think at 135, man, the only real players are really good. Both what's his name? Murataya and Cepeda haven't looked good in the last performances.
Yeah. So number one, with the Andy Cruz situation, Andy Cruz to me is cloud chasing. This guy only has 3 fights, and he's hanging on to the fact that he beat a kid, because Keyshawn was a kid in the amateur.
NERD says people are impressed with that Pedraza and Lemo wins apparently. I agree. I agree.
I didn't say Pedraza. I said Pedraza was shot.
He did.
I was more impressed.
No, but he's what that commenter is saying. He's saying that I think people are buying a little into the hype based on those 2 victories of Keyshawn Davis.
I was more impressed with Keyshawn the fight after with Madueño, because I saw this guy was pretty tough guy coming forward, didn't want to get knocked out. Keyshawn hit him with everything in the tank. He stayed in the pocket.
He showed a lot of
grit. That to me showed more than him just rolling over
that's you're talking about a
great point.
Go ahead.
Now let me.
You're talking about a D+ fighter in Madueño.
At the end of the day, this guy had never been gotten KO'd. He was 31-1 when he faced him. 31-1, regardless of whether he's a D fighter, whatever it is. This guy has never been KO'd, and he was in the pocket with Keyshawn, throwing him everything, throwing him hard punches. You got to see how he's gonna react to it.
Rabbit
And
punches. I mean, he was.
I saw the fight, and I was definitely not impressed given the caliber of opponent that he had in front of him.
I was.
He had a back and forth fight with a D+ opponent.
But let me mention the
style dream.
Let me mention
Johnny. I'm criticizing based on the hype that he's getting. Not if he was a quiet kid, if he didn't talk much, if they weren't putting this much hype behind him, but they're putting hype behind this kid with only 12 fights, talking about him fighting Javante and Tios. That's what you call hype. That kind of hype merits appropriate criticism.
Talking about that, he was the one calling those guys out.
Yeah,
but people are believing it. People are believing he could contend with them.
I think. Yeah, I
Bro,
think.
All right, Johnny. Look, Johnny. All right, Johnny. He's doing that, right? But there's a number of people, and I don't mean a small number, saying that Keyshawn will beat Tank.
Wow.
Well,
you see, that's what you call hype. I don't like that. I don't like that.
I don't know as far as going that far.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
Well, people, you wouldn't, but I'm saying you know boxing, you know how the comments is. There's a lot of people. I think people are even saying that Tank is ducking Keyshawn Davis. Like, come on, man.
I don't know about that. I mean,
and also Tank Keyshawn Davis beats Teo easily. I've seen that comment as well. That's hype.
Yeah,
that's hype.
I don't. Those are people that probably they're just trapped in the moment. But I just wanted to comment regarding the Andy Cruz fight. Andy Cruz, to me, that's a person that's called cloud chasing, grabbing off of those amateur fights. And remember, this is amateur. Amateur and professional is totally different. We saw Robesi coming in with a whole lot of hype coming out of Cuba. We saw Morel coming out of Cuba with all this amateur pedigree. Amateur and professional is different. You know, there is no headgear. You're coming in with 12-inch gloves, like 12-ounce gloves, like it's totally different.
8 ounce in professional.
8 ounce gloves. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, it's totally different. You're going into 12-round fights. You're gonna get hit with punches that you normally don't get hit in the amateurs. You know, you're going on a point system that you're counting on winning by decision. In the pros, it's totally different. I think that Keyshawn has him by a mile in there. If they face each other now, it's
by a mile.
Yeah, by a mile.
I would favor Keyshawn to win that fight.
I would favor Keyshawn for that fight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the only way Keyshawn can win is by knockout. I think if it goes decision, I think Andy Cruz will really do a number on him boxing wise. Now, if he does not get past Barincek, how would you guys react to that?
Well, I fully expect him to win that fight and win his first world title. I just don't see how he loses that fight.
Yeah, I say what I expect him to get through it. I think what could happen is that Barincek's experience is craftiness, because this guy's much older, is being an Olympian. That might get in the way and might force him to have Keyshawn have a bad performance. He might look a little suspect, but I think he's gonna get through it. At worst, that's what probably will happen.
Yeah, it's a championship fight.
You know what's been, I think, a driving factor behind these guys from the Ukraine as of late, the last 2 years? I think the situation in their home country, bro. If you look at their performances and how good they've all been doing, I think it has to do with what's going on back at home. I think a lot of them are really laying it all out on the line, man, and showing heart. You know, even the only guy that didn't really do much was Vazdik when he fought Benavidez, because he didn't get hurt. He's a rock. He didn't get hurt, but he didn't do much to Benavidez. Benavidez won the fight convincingly, but make no mistake about it, he had a really hard time hurting Vazdik. Besides him, bro, all these Ukrainian guys have been fighting with a lot of heart, a lot of drive. So I think it'll still be interesting, even though I think Keyshawn is a bigger, stronger guy. I think this is like Broner back when he beat DeMarco, back when he beat all these guys that remember, Broner, believe it or not, is a 4-division world champion. 4-division world champion. At 126, 130, 135, he was destroying people. When he went up to 140, 147, it didn't look that way no more. So I think we might be seeing a little bit of that with Keyshawn. Not as much, but let's see what happens, and let's see. I still think I understand you guys as far as what Baranchik did against Navarrete, but again, not a full one, not a real full 135 pounder.
Yeah,
but I understand the fact that he's an Ukrainian, he's tough, he did what he did against Navarrete, but I think he's gonna take a little more than that.
To me, I've been seeing more hype in Abdullah Mason than I've been seeing in Keyshawn. He's a guy that's been getting a lot of hype, and he's
I would say no. You know why? Because if you were to go, I'm a barber. You guys know I'm a barber. If you were to go to the barbershop, boxing is a niche sport, right? We're hardcores. We know everybody in the game. Most people outside of being hardcore don't. And there's a name that if you mention it, matter of fact, you don't even gotta mention it. They come up to me and ask me about him. That's Keyshawn Davis. If I were to say Abdullah Mason, they wouldn't know who the fuck we're talking about, because Keyshawn has that crossover appeal. He already has that little buzz on the internet, just like Devin Haney did, just like Ryan Garcia did, just like Shakur does. He's getting that crowd. Abdullah's not getting there. Abdullah's not a mouthy guy. He don't talk. He's not beefing with people on Twitter, talking shit in videos. He's doing it in the ring. So I think there I'm going to disagree and say that Keyshawn, people have come up to me and asked me about Keyshawn. Matter of fact, the girl that does braids, yo, you know Keyshawn Davis is? Yeah, you think he could beat Tank? Like, they're asking me that because they're seeing that shit pop up on their feeds. So that's what I mean by hype, bro. That's hype.
I look at it differently because I do listen to other shows such as the Boxing Boys, Coach Malachi Williams Show, AM Sport Media, BDA Boxing, and you hear the callers and you hear what they say, and oh my God, Abdullah Mason. Oh my God, Abdullah Mason.
Yeah, they're looking at his skill, at what he's doing in the ring.
No, but a lot of people don't know who they're fighting, and everything that you're saying about Keyshawn fighting D-level and C-level class fighters, when you see the opponents, that's exactly what I'm seeing with Abdullah. Abdullah is very green.
Abdullah has how many fights does Abdullah have?
About 12 fights, 13 fights, probably somewhere around the line.
Keyshawn has 12 fights as well.
And Abdullah's how old?
He's like 20.
Yeah, he's young, man. But
he's like 18, 19 years old.
This is what Top Rank does. I mean, they are very, very good at
he's 20
hyping guys up,
marketing their. I wouldn't even say marketing them, but matching their fighters well when they're young.
Yeah, they have really good matchmakers.
They are really, really good at that. But the fact that
and how old
title,
Keyshawn got to be.
Keyshawn's fighting for a title in his 12th fight. Abdullah Mason probably has the same amount of fights.
Keyshawn got to be what?
And he's nowhere near.
Yeah, he's
fighting for a title. That tells you the difference.
Abdullah's 19, 20 years old, right? And Keyshawn has to be 25 years old or something like that.
I'm not sure. I got to check that.
Yeah, Keyshawn is 25.
25?
Yeah. So that's why you're seeing the difference, Johnny. This kid just started his career, Abdullah. I think that's the difference there.
When do you think Keyshawn debuted? 2021. So he's only has barely 4 years.
4 years is 4 years is 4 years. Yeah, that's not exactly,
4 years. 4 years is 4 years.
And when did Abdullah debut?
Abdullah, it
couldn't have been 4 years because he's only 18, 19 years old. So
one thing that Abdullah, in 2021.
Both of them?
Yeah.
NERD says Andy Cruz sunned Keyshawn multiple times already. That's a mental hurdle, tough to get over. Keyshawn was already a professional when he lost to Andy Cruz. I don't know what he means by that. He says that
Abdul,
Keyshawn was already a professional when he lost to Andy Cruz. What do you think he means by that, Johnny?
I'm not quite sure, but
Sure. Actually, Abdullah has more fights. He has 16 fights.
yeah.
He's
So
Yeah.
16
They
so,
keeping him
yeah,
busier, but he's younger. He's a young kid. They know that he's still not, he hasn't been ready for a world title. This guy's more mature. He's 25 fucking years old.
yeah.
That's the difference. 5 years is a big difference in boxing, John.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
The
he's
maturity
20.
level,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that's what has to do with it. But anyway, man, let's wrap it up, man. Listen, hey, some more shows and some more post fights to look forward to, man. I look forward to the post fight of Bivol Beterbiev. I look forward to the post fight of Bivol Beterbiev. And one real quick, with the hangout spot, follow Johnny, subscribe, share. He's doing interviews, man. He had one of the greatest, to me, the greatest female fighter on his platform, Christy Martin, the greatest female fighter to ever do it, in my opinion. And also recently, they interviewed Jose Benavidez Sr. right after the Morrell fight. So, that's hot. That's hot, man. That's a hot interview. Johnny, real quick, leave us with this, man. And I know you probably talked about it on your show, but you got to talk about it on here. Your sentiments as a hardcore boxing fan in your intellect on this, for how you view it in reality as far as boxing goes inside the ring. Canelo versus Terence Crawford.
I wasn't a huge fan of that fight when I first heard about it. Listen, for true, it's a consolation prize, right? Because you got Terence Crawford, who's considered one of the best fighters in the world, pound for pound. People forget there's weight classes in boxing for a reason, right? He's moving up 2 weight classes. For me, it's not a skill thing. I mean, Terence Crawford has the skill to compete with Canelo. It's about size and it's about punch resistance. That's the problem. He is facing a natural 168 pounder who can cut off the ring, who hits to the body, who's an excellent counterpuncher. So here, I'll leave you with this. When I say punch resistance for you boxing fans, if Terence Crawford gets hit with that same left hand that Berlanga got hit with, that put Berlanga down like a deck of, like a house of cards. Granted, Berlanga got up, he finished the fight in his own 2 feet. But if Terence Crawford gets hit with that same left hand, does he get up? That's my question. It's about punch resistance.
I think he might get up, Johnny. I think he might wake up and get up in the ER room.
Then he right. So again, skill level, I'm not discounting what Bud brings to the table as far as skill level, but there are weight classes for a reason in boxing. That's all I'm going to say about that fight. But at the end of the day, what I'm going to say, and I've said it on my show, this is the consolation prize that we're getting. We're not getting what we really want. We want Canelo against Benavidez. We're not getting that. I agree with Rafael. I don't think that fight ever happens. That shit has sailed to me.
Yeah.
Right? Because we all know Canelo doesn't want that smoke. Okay? But I guess this is going to be the consolation prize that we all got to accept and hope, that we get a good fight out of it. Like I said,
Rafael said it best. It's just a casual money grab. That's what I think.
It's funny because
look at what Nerd says. He says here, and we have to verify that Keyshawn had 4 or 5 professional fights. Then he went to the Olympics when he lost to Andy Cruz for the last time. That's a very interesting fact that he brought there. It is possible.
Man, I don't think if they fought tomorrow, I would pick Keyshawn to win that fight.
Yeah, so would I.
Yeah, I would go with Andy, and I would go with Andy 12-round decision.
Going back to the Crawford Canelo, it's
nah, we gotta go back to that no more, man. I wanted Johnny to close it. We don't gotta go back to that, man. We don't gotta go
no,
back over there,
I was
man.
just commenting on what you had mentioned was that when I heard that the Jake Paul fight and the Canelo fight was official and the Crawford fight was off, I texted Dream with a screenshot, and Dream said the exact same thing that I was thinking. It was like, thank God that the Crawford fight was off because I didn't want to watch that shit anyways. And Dream wasn't the only person that was saying that. Like, I know that you're looking at it as a consolation prize, but I kind of know what's gonna happen. I know how that story ends, and it's not good. So I'd rather just watch something that is gonna be more competitive. But it is what it is.
Yeah, listen, again, that's if you guys want to watch it, yeah, we're all gonna watch it.
Boxing is about name recognition, you know, and you know, Terrence Crawford is a name, you know, again, highly regarded, pound for pound list. So people are going to talk themselves into this is going to be a really good competitive fight against two top guys on the pound for pound list. And realistically, no, it's not. But hey, this is what we're getting, man. What can I say?
Johnny, all you got to do is look back. Before you got on, I told Ralphie, Crawford has 154 problems. He has problems at 154 with somebody with 11 fights like Israeli Madrimov.
Yeah.
At 154, that tells me he would have Fundora problems. He would have Virgil Ortiz problems. He would have Bakram problems. He would have Bohachuk problems. So imagine jumping then not to 160, but to 168.
I agree.
To fight one of the hardest punchers. You see how big Munguia was. You see how big Berlanga was. Those guys were 200 pounds. Exactly. And they hit the ground like a sack of potatoes. So you know, like, nah, bro. I mean, like Canelo said, I think it was Sway in the morning. He said, easy money. Easy money. So that's it. That's what he wants right now. It's easy money. So yeah, all right, whatever, man. But all right, man. You already know. Share, like, and subscribe. Follow Johnny at the Hangout Spot on YouTube. Go check out his interviews. You know what I'm gonna do right now, guys? I'm gonna go check out Johnny's interview, and I'm also gonna go check out Berinchyk versus Navarrete again. You know, give that another look. Study that.
I'm gonna actually watch that before next week too. Actually,
yeah,
you're right.
Yeah. I'm gonna watch. I probably watch that now.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
But all right, man. I'll check you guys out.
I appreciate y'all, man.
No doubt.
All right.